Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Nerdy Multiverse and yet another breakdown. As today, we will be breaking down and giving our initial thoughts on episode 5 of season 2 of The Last of Us, which is obviously based on the video games. Specifically, this season being based on the second game, as the first season was entirely based on the first game, of course. And the 5th episode of this season is titled Feel Her Love. And this episode begins with Hanrahan arriving at the WLF controlled hospital to see that the basement level doorway is completely sealed off. To further investigate what is going on, she goes to speak with a character named Elise Park, who trapped her own men inside, which essentially killed them. And take note of the name on her uniform as well. In her explanation when clearing the hospital, they had no issues, not even in the first level of the basement. There was nothing, not even rats. Anyone who has played the game will likely take note of all of these little hints in this episode, to the largest infected we have ever seen from the game, known as the Rat King. However, once their teams got into level 2 of the basement, things took a massive turn. Her own son was clearing the basement with the team, and radioed back to her, and it sounded like he was infected, but he was not bit. He reported back that it was in the air, and to seal them and the basement off, because it is in the air. This does get further explained later in the episode, as the series finally introduces the spores, typically found in dark and damp areas that seemingly had some rather old infected. In the game, when there are spores, the characters are forced to go in with a gas mask on, except for Ellie, of course, unless she is pretending to not be immune. Anyways though, after this, we cut to Ellie and Dina, who are now held up at the theater, of course serving as their base of operations while staying in Seattle. This is the same situation in the game, and it also serves as the main base in the no return mode if you are playing as a character that would be considered as Team Ellie. The two go through their plan to get to the WLF controlled hospital, where they will find Nora. They have to go at night and sneak through the one location that apparently has no wolf patrols. Ellie then heads into the auditorium and finds some more guitars and begins to sing Future Days. But she stops as she gets through the line, "If I were to ever lose you," obviously being reminded of Joel. And she gets that look of revenge in her eyes. Joel also used to sing this very song to Ellie before he was killed. Once the two get their plans figured out and decide to go and be reckless, they head back out into the streets of Seattle, with it being day 2, and the chaos and reality of how dangerous it is here only starts to pick up. They end up finding a group of dead Seraphites, or scars, right below a mural of their prophet, clearly gunned down by their opponents or enemies, the wolves. This makes Ellie question whether or not Dina should be going with or not, especially because she is pregnant, actually showing care for her. Now, in the game at first and throughout most of the story, Ellie is very angry. When she learns of Dina's pregnancy, she actually calls her a burden. There are definitely some personality changes when it comes to the show when you compare it to the game. Game Ellie showed a ton of anger, while the show isn't as angry throughout the story and only really angry at chosen times. Dina then tells the story of the first person that she had to kill. She was only 8 years old, and it was a singular raider who had broken into their home and killed her mother and her grandmother. She explains that if she was forced to watch it and didn't shoot and kill him there, she would have hunted him down for the rest of her days, relating to Ellie and how her venture for justice or revenge is justified to Dina, regardless of what Joel did. He did not deserve that, and Ellie and Dina did not deserve to have to sit there and watch it happen. The two continue on, and then it hits nighttime. as they sneak inside a building and past the WLF spotlights. The building is extremely quiet and dark, so the two move through it together very carefully, and the creepy vibes they put in here was really nice. They then notice that they are not alone. This place is crawling with stalkers. They make a plan and send Dina entrapped inside a sort of caged room, keeping her safe while Ellie tries to fight off the stalkers, as she can obviously be bit without any consequences. But they start getting overwhelmed, biting at Ellie and breaking through the cage, only for them to be saved and all of the stalkers to be taken out by none other than Jesse, who found them after finding all of their stuff at the theater. However, all of the noise from the gunshots alerts the wolves, so now they have to escape once more, as Ellie and Dina earlier agreed to run instead of shoot if they were overwhelmed and outnumbered. Now, in the game, when Dina and Ellie first start heading into wolf territory, they actually encounter a new type of infected known as shamblers. An infected type mostly found in these damp and dark areas, standing at around the same size as the bloaters, practically standing as a mutated version of them, except they are able to use these acidic-like attacks because of the humidity that they thrive in, and they also explode upon death. They make their way into the park, which the wolves refuse to go into. At first, they assume it is because there are more infected inside, but then they start hearing the whistles from the Seraphites, as torches start lighting up the entire forest. A Seraphite priest ends up killing a man after spewing the Seraphites' religious beliefs to him as he is being hung, only to turn around and alert the rest of his people, all to go after our three characters. Dina ends up getting shot by an arrow, and Ellie sends her and Jesse back to the theater while she attempts to distract all of the Seraphites away from them. She successfully does so by hiding inside one of the massive trees in the forest. But instead of heading back to the theater where Jesse and Dina are headed themselves, she decides to go the other way and head towards the hospital. This is a good display of what the game Ellie was really like, ultimately kind of serving as a selfish act and going after revenge, even though her beloved friends were in danger. Now, when the group was making their way through the park earlier, before the Seraphites caught them, Jesse actually revealed that he did not come to Seattle alone and Tommy came with him, but they split up to cover more ground. Tommy is likely and hopefully making his presence known to the wolves, someplace else in Seattle, if we are going based on the game, that is. Although in the game, Tommy was actually the first one to head off to Seattle, and it was actually Dina and Ellie who followed after him so that he did not get reckless and he did not get killed. In the show, it sort of seems to be the other way around. I do hope that these sort of changes do not end up affecting some of Tommy's sniping scenes though. I am very glad that they did end up bringing him to Seattle, as I was a little worried that they were not going to do that. Anyways though, Ellie sneaks her way into the hospital, and once Nora walks into the back where she is all alone, Ellie makes herself known. And they go line for line in this scene when it comes to the game version of this scene. A practically identical version. Nora says that she does not know where Abby is, which is a lie, and then she says that she is sorry that Ellie had to watch Joel being killed, but then says that he got what he deserved, as she tosses the old bandages and what I can assume is some rubbing alcohol in Ellie's face, and then tries making a run for it. She ends up getting trapped and is forced to head inside the elevator shaft, which ends up collapsing and sending her straight to the basement, leaving Ellie to follow after her as wolves go after Ellie and shoot at her. Now in the basement, Ellie makes her way through while searching for Nora, she ends up finding a massive collection of cordyceps, holding 2 people that are breathing out spores. One of these infected people is actually the son of the woman from the very beginning of this episode, based on the names on their uniforms. Of course, Ellie is immune, so she can freely breathe in these spores with no issues. But of course, Nora cannot, and she recognizes that when she sees Ellie doing so. So in the distance, you can hear her struggling to breathe, and this means that Ellie finds her and tells her that she knows what Joel did, but she does not care because they still killed him. And then she starts asking where Abby is once more, but Nora refuses to answer any of her questions. Ellie ends up picking up a pipe and begins to beat Nora with it, still asking where Abby is, evidently killing Nora in the process, a parallel to Abby, as this is the same way that Abby beat Joel. It was just with a golf club instead, and ended up killing him, of course. Although Nora was going to become infected regardless. Now, little does Ellie know, while all of this is happening, Abby is likely in the basement as well, just 1 floor below in level 3. I feel like during these scenes you could actually hear some very specific noises in the background that could very well be the Rat King that was already hinted at in the episode, in which in the game Abby is fighting while Ellie interrogates Nora. Anyways though, after Ellie begins beating Nora, we actually cut to Ellie as she wakes up back at the house in Jackson as the door opens and Joel walks in to greet her. So clearly next episode we are going to be heading into a massive flashback episode, and this is where the episode ends off. And overall, I thought that this was a very good episode. It's hard to not always mention how every scene is so similar to the games, because most of them truly are alike, especially in this episode. I know there is a lot of controversy and back and forth regarding which actors are playing which characters, but in my personal opinion, I do think that everyone is doing an incredible job, and yes, that means Bella Ramsey as Ellie, especially with what they are given. I really enjoyed the scenes of Ellie truly beginning her venture of revenge, and just how identical it was to the game in those scenes. I'm glad to see the introduction to these spores finally, and of course the horror aspects in this episode when it comes to the stalkers and even Ellie hunting down Nora was done very well. The action and environment surrounding Seattle was also very cool to see. Now, when it comes to adaptations for video games, there is of course always going to be certain critiques, but if you just put this in a box as just a plain television show, I think that this is great television. But of course, when it comes to certain adaptation stuff, there are a few issues, if that makes sense. Of course, I love the similarities to the games, especially the outfits, the set designs, and even the voices are so alike for a lot of these characters. I personally did not have many issues with this episode really, and this was by far one of the most identical sort of episodes compared to the game, and one of my favorite episodes so far. I enjoyed this one a lot, and I think I would rate it an 8.5 out of 10. But yeah, that about does it for this episode, from me at least. But of course, I would like to hear your thoughts on it as well, so make sure to leave them down below. Anyways though, thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed our breakdown and review on this episode, feel free to give it a like. And with that being said, we will see you all the next time that we go through and explore the nerdy multiverse.